Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason, and this is another marker on the Blues Trail, Mississippi Blues Trail that is. I am going to visit the grave site of Memphis Minnie, one of the queens of the blues, and she was a superstar of the underground blues scene during her heyday. There's also a historical marker dedicated to her, and Led Zeppelin fans may want to tune in because there's some cool history about this lady. So here we go. All right, so she is buried in the back, but it won't take too long to walk over there. And this cemetery, I mean, it's small, but you know, I mean, you can pretty much, it shouldn't be that hard to find any grave here, you know, but Memphis Minnie is right there. Before I visit that marker, I'm gonna go ahead and, meaning the grave, I mean, I'm gonna visit the marker real quick. And this is part of the Memphis Blues Commission, or the Memphis Blues Trail. Memphis Minnie, who was born Lizzie Douglas in 1897 and died in 1973. She was one of the premier blues artists of the 1930s and 40s. Her singing and songwriting, spirited demeanor, and superlative guitar playing propelled her to the upper echelons of a field then dominated by male guitarists and pianists. In the early 1900s, Minnie lived in Tunica and DeSoto counties, where she began performing with guitarist Willie Brown and others. She is buried here in the New Hope MB Church Cemetery. And then I was going to see the back, which I know is more detailed. See if I can get that sun out. Alright, so she spent most of her childhood in Mississippi, where she was known as Kid Douglas. U.S. Census listings of 1900 and 1910 place her in Tunica County, but she gave her birthplace as Algiers, Louisiana in 1897. When she was a teenager, her family moved to Walls, which is about a few minutes away from here. But Minnie soon struck out on her own. Inspired to make a living with her voice and guitar, she reportedly joined the Ringling Brothers Circus as a traveling musician, and performed locally at house parties and dances with Willie Brown, Willie Moore, and other bluesmen around Lake Cormorant and Walls. The lure of Beale Street drew her to Memphis, where she worked the streets, cafes, clubs, and parties. She began performing with Joe McCoy, whom she married in 1929. After a town scout heard the duo performing for tips in a barber shop, they made their first recordings that year, billed as Kansas Joe and Memphis Minnie. Bumblebee was their big hit, and has been recorded by many other blues singers, although in later years their most recognized song would become When the Levee Breaks. The couple soon relocated to Chicago and continued to perform and record together before Minnie took on a new guitar-playing husband, Ernest Lawlers, also known as Little Son Joe. Minnie recorded prolifically throughout the 1930s and 40s, scoring hits such as Me and My Chauffeur Blues, Please Set a Date, In My Girlish Days, and Nothing in Rambling. Her showmanship and instrumental prowess enabled her to defeat the top bluesmen of Chicago, including Muddy Waters and Big Bill Brunzi, in blues contests. She gained a reputation as a down-home diva who could handle herself and her men, both on and off stage. In 1958, Minnie returned to Memphis, where she died in a nursing home on August 6, 1973. And as far as her legacy, one of the rare women of her era to gain prominence as a guitarist, Minnie overcame considerable odds to achieve success, battling both racism and sexism. She has been heralded as a champion of feminist independence and empowerment. She was elected to the Blues Hall of Fame in its first year of balloting, which was in 1980. The Mount Zion Memorial Fund erected a headstone for her here in 1996. Her songs have been recorded by women such as Big Mama Thornton, Lucinda Williams, as well as by men including Muddy Waters, Elmore James, and Western swing pioneer Milton Brown. Now here are the lyrics to her most famous song, When the Levee Breaks. Now it was recorded on her version, or their version I should say, with Kansas Joe, was recorded on June 18th, 1929. McCoy was the vocalist on the song and many others during the years of his partnership with Minnie. Now Led Zeppelin brought the song to rock audiences when they covered it in 1971. And its lyrics earned it renewed prominence as a theme song for documentaries about Hurricane Katrina after the levee broke in New Orleans in 2005. And then here's a book based on her, Woman with Guitar, Memphis Minnie's Blues. Now speaking of the Led Zeppelin version, now that is on, I'm a big Led Zeppelin fan, lifelong fan of theirs, and I mean their version was awesome. I mean, if you have not heard it, it's on Led Zeppelin 4, or their untitled Zoso album, I guess. But the Beastie Boys also used her version of the song in the opening track of their License to Ill album, Rhymin' and Stealin', where they combine it with Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath. But still, oh, here's the record, the 40 or the 78 cover for it. So I mean, yeah, when the Levee Breaks, it's a great song. You gotta crank it up. But I also recommend listening to Memphis Minnie and Kansas Joe McCoy's version. Now I read somewhere that Bonnie Raitt purchased this headstone for her. I think it was unmarked for many years, or it was a small headstone, something like that. But people have left mementos. And here's a picture of Memphis Minnie. Ernest Lawlers is buried next to her. He's mentioned on the marker, of course. Little son Joe. Let's see what it says on the back here. The hundreds of sides Minnie recorded are the perfect material to teach us about the blues. For the blues are at once general and particular, speaking for millions, but in a highly singular individual voice. Listening to Minnie's songs, we hear her fantasies, her dreams, her desires, but we will hear them as if they were our own. Well put. And I just thought I'd kind of give you a look at the peaceful grounds of northern Mississippi. And I hope a lot of locals know that how her importance of her on blues and rock and roll are. But I was just talking with a couple who are following the blues trail, and apparently you can download the app and it'll show you where all the markers are, like town by town in the state of Mississippi. But rest in peace, Memphis Minnie. Alright, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason, and I am just standing in the New Hope Church Cemetery, visiting the grave of Memphis Minnie, even wearing my Led Zeppelin shirt to kind of, in a sense of irony. Don't worry, I intentionally wore it. But hope you get a chance to visit a lot of these blues trail markers when you're in the great state of Mississippi. Alright, I'm Jason, just outside Walls, Mississippi. Sign off.